We rented the house for the week. Oceanfront, 2 stories, wraparound porch, the kind of place people book when they want to pretend they're not drifting apart. South Carolina in June. Air thick with salt and secrets. Sea oats swaying like they're eavesdropping, and the Atlantic muttering to itself just beyond the dunes. Amanda called it a reset. I kept that word in my mouth for days, like a splinter I couldn't spit out. Reset. As if the problem was timing or fatigue. As if 6 days and 5 nights under the same roof could undo years of slow erosion. As if proximity could replace intimacy. She said the girls needed it. It'll be good for all of us, especially them. But when Amanda says them, she never means us. We arrived in 3 cars, staggered. Amanda rode down with Brooke and her sister. I came later, with the grocery cooler in the back seat, my name still on the reservation and my card still holding the deposit. Megan and Lily came last, already in beach clothes, laughing with the kind of ease that didn't include me. Amanda's family, her mother, 2 aunts and 3 cousins, had already claimed the bigger rooms, dropped their sandals in the hallway, made themselves at home. I carried their luggage without being asked. That was how the week started. Me hauling bags, keeping ice from melting, grilling burgers while the others clinked glasses and compared family stories that ended before I ever entered the picture. Amanda flitted between conversations, always smiling, always elsewhere. She touched my shoulder once that first night, absent-mindedly, like she had forgotten whose skin it was. The girls hardly spoke to me. Megan, the oldest, was too polite to be direct. Her rejection came in the form of silence. A nod at breakfast, nothing more. Lily was sharper. She still remembered how to wound with a look, a gesture, a rolled eye just subtle enough to go unchallenged. And Brooke, the youngest, had learned the art of undermining through sugar-coated cruelty. Do you want me to help with the grill? Or is that, like, your thing? She didn't want to help. She wanted to remind me I was ornamental. Still, I tried. I fixed the screen door. I booked the kayaking tour. I printed maps, charged phones, called ahead to the seafood place because Brooke had allergies Amanda never remembered. I cut limes for drinks. I ran back to the store when Lily realized she forgot her sunscreen, the expensive kind with the brand name and scent that cost more than a decent lunch. I went because no one else offered. That's how it always was, my role defined not by presence but utility. I was the one who made things work, who paid, who showed up. I didn't belong in their family stories, but I kept the damn thing running. I told myself that mattered. The dinner came on the 4th night. A long table on the back porch, strung with lights, the kind that buzz slightly in the humid air. 12 of us. Amanda's mother sat to her left, oxygen machine humming like an off-key violin. Megan had made place cards from seashells and cardstock. Amanda sat at the center, queen of a kingdom built on polite denial. I was seated at the far end, a placement that wasn't accidental. I looked down that table and saw it clearly. I was on the periphery, present but irrelevant. Shrimp and grits, roasted corn, summer beans with garlic and lemon. Everything Amanda liked. I poured wine. I opened beers. I smiled at conversations I wasn't part of. Someone joked about Amanda's first marriage. Remember that beach trip with Derek? Lord, what a disaster. Laughter rolled through the table like surf on sand. I sipped my drink. Then came the scrape of chairs. It was too synchronized to be casual. Megan stood first, then Lily, then Brooke. All 3 rose with a quiet that cut through the noise. The laughter faded. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks hovered. A gull cried in the distance. I remember every detail because something inside me knew this moment would stain everything that followed. Megan spoke first. This is our real father's house. Her voice wasn't cruel. That's what made it worse. It was calm, like a sentence handed down by a judge. Lily followed. You don't belong here. Matter of fact, like she was reading a weather report. Brooke, still holding her napkin, said only, "It's not yours." Then silence. No one moved. No one gasped. No one told them to sit down or asked what the hell they meant. Amanda didn't say a word. She didn't look at me. She studied her wine glass like it might contain the answers. Her lips pressed together, not in shock, in restraint. as if silence was the best possible outcome, as if she had seen the rehearsal and chosen not to intervene. That was when the understanding clicked. This wasn't spontaneous. It had been planned, maybe not down to the word, but the intent was clear. This was a performance, an expulsion, my exile, delivered politely over dinner and clamshells. I scanned the faces at the table. No one met my eyes. Her sister looked down at her plate. Her mother adjusted her oxygen tube. One cousin picked at a hangnail. No one came to my defense. No one even asked for clarification. And Amanda, she just kept swirling her glass. I let the silence stretch. I let them feel it. I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I knew if I opened my mouth, I'd become the villain. That's how it works. The man who raises his voice always becomes the threat. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. Not even hurt. What I felt was something quieter, colder, clarity that hummed in my bones. I nodded once. Deliberate. Final. I understand, I said. That was all. They blinked, unsure what to do next. The performance hadn't accounted for my acceptance. Megan shifted. Lily sat down slowly, eyes flicking toward Amanda for guidance that never came. Brooke looked uncertain for the first time. But I stayed quiet, and I watched. They didn't understand what I understood. That I wasn't angry because I wasn't surprised. This wasn't betrayal, it was confirmation. Confirmation of everything I had felt but hadn't dared name. That I was an outsider. A tool. A temporary fixture in a house that never made room for me. I finished my drink. I didn't touch the food. Amanda still hadn't spoken. Eventually, the conversation limped forward. Someone commented on the shrimp. Someone else asked if there were enough clean forks for dessert. The table moved on. I watched Amanda's fingers tremble slightly as she reached for the wine bottle. And that's when I knew. She wasn't shocked. She had allowed this. She had sat through the rehearsal or maybe just ignored it. She had heard the way they spoke about me. She had seen the lines drawn, the loyalties chosen. And she had decided silence was safer than conflict. That was the moment I stopped being a husband. Not legally, not publicly. But internally, spiritually, the moment she chose not to speak, not to even acknowledge the wound she had permitted, I withdrew. Not with fury. With precision. It wasn't dramatic. There was no slammed glass or bitter monologue. Just a quiet turning inward. Like a man pulling up the drawbridge around a castle no one had defended. That night, the waves outside the window sounded different. Not soothing. Not rhythmic. Just distant. After dinner, no one spoke to me. Not Amanda. Not the girls. Not a single relative still sitting on that porch, drinking the last of the wine beneath mosquito lamps and weathered fairy lights. The air had thickened not with tension, but with something worse. Satisfaction. They had done what they came to do. The performance had ended. Their silence wasn't hesitation. It was contentment. I cleared the plates. No one stopped me. Not even Amanda, who used to put a hand on my shoulder when I moved to do the dishes. Her half-hearted protest always the same. You cooked. Let someone else clean. That night she said nothing. She stayed seated, glass refilled, watching the horizon where the ocean swallowed the sky. I washed each plate carefully. Let the water run hot. Focused on the simple repetition of sponge against ceramic. There's something ancient about cleaning what others have dirted. Something monastic. You do it not for thanks, you do it because you've accepted your place. And for years I had. But something had shifted in me. When I finished, I dried my hands, poured myself a final drink, and stepped outside. The porch was mostly empty now. A few cousins wandered down toward the beach, sandals in hand, wine bottle dangling from fingertips. Amanda had gone inside. The girls had vanished into the second floor, the place they'd always claimed as their own. I stood in the dark, listening to the surf, the faint hum of conversation trailing through the open windows. And then, for the first time in years, I let myself feel nothing. Not pain, not rage, just the absence of effort. I had been holding this family up like a tired scaffold, creaking, groaning, half buried in sand, patching cracks while pretending the structure wasn't already sinking. But scaffolds don't cry out. They just collapse when no one's watching. I didn't collapse. I acted. At 2:14 a.m., I opened my laptop at the long dining table and clicked through every document I'd organized. Titles, deeds, shared accounts, insurance policies, assets I'd never once lorded over them. Because I didn't want power. I wanted peace, respect, maybe even something close to family. But I was done wanting. The house was in my name. The rental, the deposits, the agreement with the property manager, all of it under my signature. A perk of being the one who actually paid for things. I forwarded the property listing to a local agent I had once worked with on a referral. Quiet man, discreet. I marked the subject line clearly. Put it on the market immediately. Price to move. No contingencies. Then I logged into our shared accounts. Not the public ones Amanda knew about. The ones I had kept separate, guarded, slowly fed over the years in the quiet understanding that I was always alone in this, even while pretending otherwise. I began closing them. Auto payments, tuition drafts, subscription fees, little rivers of obligation that had flowed steadily from me to them, without gratitude, without pause. I scheduled withdrawals, transferred ownerships, marked documents for shredding. Amanda's name wasn't on any of it. That was her choice. Early on, she said she wanted independence, not entanglement. I don't want to fight over money, she said during our first year together. Let's keep it clean. Yours is yours. Mine is mine. At the time, I'd admired her for it. Now, I saw it for what it was, preparation. Preemptive disowning. It made my exit easier. By 4 a.m., I had 3 tabs open, one with the ticketing site, one with a real estate dashboard confirming the house had been relisted, and one with the beginnings of a residency application for a small European country I'd once visited on business. Not a vacation spot, not a postcard, just a quiet place where people mind their own lives. That was all I wanted. I didn't leave a note. I didn't tiptoe upstairs to watch them sleep. They had made their declaration. I was honoring it. The next morning, I drank my coffee early, before the house stirred. I stood on the back porch and watched the sky shift from dark blue to that early, pale peach. The kind of sky that fools you into thinking the day will be kind. I knew better. Amanda came down around 7. She wore the same robe she always brought to beach houses. White cotton, faintly frayed at the cuffs. Her eyes were puffy, lips dry. She didn't greet me, just moved past like I was furniture. I said nothing. She poured her coffee, stared into it. Maybe she thought I was going to ask about last night. Maybe she expected one of those long, strained conversations where the man pleads for acknowledgement. I didn't offer it. Silence has a flavor, metallic, clean, final. She drank it with me. The girls didn't appear for breakfast. Their absence was pointed, childish. Amanda didn't comment. Neither did I. Around noon, I stepped out for a walk. Told no one. Took nothing but the keys and my phone. The wind had picked up. The tide had come in further than expected. The sea had a way of swallowing evidence. By the time I returned, Amanda's sister was preparing lunch. Tuna salad. The kind with grapes in it, which I'd once mentioned I couldn't stand. Amanda knew that. She had served it anyway. At 3:37 p.m. My phone buzzed with a message from the agent. Listing is live. Multiple inquiries already. No need for staging. Looks like a fast sale. I didn't smile, but I did close my eyes for a moment. The kind of blink that feels like turning a page. That evening we ate together again. Fewer people now. Some had driven home early, citing work stuff or kids' schedules. Lies, all of them. No one wanted to be there anymore. The air had turned. Everyone felt it. But no one said a word. Amanda sat across from me. She looked older than she had the night before. Megan was scrolling through her phone. Lily picked at her food. Brooke asked Amanda if they could go out that night. Meet some old friends from Charleston. Amanda agreed. Didn't even glance at me. I excused myself before dessert. In the hallway, I passed the mirror. For the first time in years, I looked straight into it, and didn't recognize the man staring back. He looked free. At 11:12 p.m. I booked the flight. Direct. One way. 2 weeks out. Just enough time to finalize documents, move accounts, close the last few open tabs of my life. I didn't think of Amanda. I didn't think of the girls. I thought of the silence I had purchased, not with money, but with withdrawal. A silence no one could interrupt because they had asked for it, demanded it, spelled it out in front of witnesses. You don't belong here. It wasn't a wound. It was a map. At midnight, I returned to the kitchen and made a sandwich. Ham, mustard, no sides. I ate standing up, didn't turn on the lights. Just the sound of the fridge closing, the hum of appliances that didn't care whose house they were in. And somewhere upstairs, footsteps. Probably Brooke, headed to the bathroom. Or Megan checking the doors. They didn't pause when they passed my bedroom. Didn't knock. Didn't care. Perfect. Because I was already gone. The house sold in 4 days. No counteroffers. No haggling. A cash buyer from Atlanta signed on the spot after one virtual walkthrough and a single drone flyover. I accepted immediately. Left the furnishings. Left the patio set Amanda picked out 2 summers ago. Left the beach chairs, still damp with sand. Let them keep everything. It wasn't abandonment. It was precision. People think disappearance has to be dramatic. A slammed door. A suitcase in the hallway. Voices raised until the neighbors hear. But leaving is quieter than that. If you do it right, it feels like turning off a light in a room no one knew you were standing in. They were still in the house when it sold. The buyer had scheduled an early closing. My agent asked if I wanted to notify the tenants. No, I said. Let the notice come through the front door. It did. 2 days later, Amanda called. First time she had dialed me directly in over a week. I almost didn't answer. But there's a kind of curiosity that grows inside silence. The need to know how people sound when they realize the ground beneath them was never theirs. I picked up on the 4th ring. Why is the house sold? She asked. Not a greeting. Not a question, really. A crack in her voice, hairline thin but widening. What did you do? I didn't answer right away. Just listened. Listened to the panic coiled inside her breath. Amanda had always been composed, even in arguments. Even when the girls were screaming at each other and the kitchen smelled like something burning. But this wasn't composure. This was fear. I asked you a question, she snapped. So I gave her the truth. I sold it. Silence. Then, you can't just, Michael, that's not just your decision to make. We had plans. No, I said. You had claims. I had ownership. You said you understood, she said, voice rising. That night at dinner, you nodded. You said, I did understand. That's why I sold it. She didn't speak. I heard her breathing. Shallow. Quick. Where are you? She asked, lower now. Not angry. Just shaken. Packing, I said. I leave in 12 days. She inhaled sharply. Leave? For how long? I didn't answer. Michael, where are you going? You said I didn't belong. I listened. A pause. Then the truth slipped out. Unguarded. They didn't mean it like that. But they did. Every syllable. Every glance toward Amanda, looking for permission to exile me. Every moment she stayed quiet while they held the floor like prosecutors. I let her speak into the silence. They're girls. They're young. You know how Brooke is. You know Megan just, sometimes she takes things too far. And Lily? I asked. She didn't answer. Amanda? I said. They stood up in front of your entire family and told me I was a trespasser in my own life. And you stared into a wine glass like it was a mirror. I didn't know what to say. That was the problem. More silence. Then her voice, quieter. So that's it. That's it. After everything? Yes, I said. After everything. She hung up. Not a slam. Not a scream. Just the soft click of someone realizing the conversation wasn't going to give them what they wanted. I turned off the phone. The next day, the text started. From Megan. I don't know what Mom told you, but this is insane. You can't just dump us. From Lily. You said you cared about this family. Guess not. From Brooke. Wait, Is the house really gone? Like gone gone? Each one arrived like a bead on a string. Angry, confused, desperate. But not one of them said the word that mattered. Not sorry. Not wrong. Just noise. Just panic in search of a rescuer. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded Amanda the lease termination notice and the buyer's confirmation. Attached to it was the date by which she and the girls had to vacate. The notice didn't come from me. It came from the agency. Just a form letter. Just a deadline. I wondered what face Amanda made when she read it. I pictured her at the table, fingers shaking, telling the girls the house was no longer ours, no longer theirs, that the rooms they had claimed, the porch they had declared sacred, now belonged to a stranger from Atlanta who wouldn't care who used to sit in which chair. That night, she called again. I let it ring. Then the girls called. I let those ring, too. They didn't want me. They wanted the version of me who paid, who stayed, who smiled politely while being dismissed. That man no longer lived here. Instead, I packed. I printed confirmations. I met with a notary. I scheduled shipping for what little I was keeping. A box of clothes, a few tools, a set of books no one else had ever touched. The rest? Left behind. The sale closed 2 days later. I received the wire transfer at 11:42 a.m. I checked the account, confirmed the numbers, then deleted the notification. Amanda called at 11:57 a.m. This time I answered. "You're unbelievable," she said. "So I've been told. Do you know what you've done to this family?" I paused, then said, "Do you?" Her breath hitched. "They're distraught," she said. "Megan's crying. Brooke's refusing to pack. Lily hasn't left her room." I waited. "You think this is strength?" Amanda spat. "Abandoning people when they need you? Selling a house out from under your own." She caught herself. Didn't finish the sentence. "Say it," I said. "My own what?" Silence. "You don't get to play victim," I said. "You had a chance to stop it. At that table. 14 witnesses. And you sat there. You're punishing them." "No. I'm relieving them. They said it wasn't my house. I'm making sure it isn't." She exhaled. A low, shaking sound. Like something breaking that had been under pressure too long. "Where are you going?" she asked again. "Somewhere they don't know my name. They're your daughters." "No," I said. "They're not. You raised them. I paid for them. That's not the same." "It is when that's all you were ever asked to do," she cried finally. Not loudly. Not for effect. The quiet kind. The kind that leaks out of someone who thought they'd always have the upper hand. And now found themselves in free fall. "We can fix this," she said. "No," I said. "You had a family. You chose to protect your daughter's version of it. Not mine. I won't live in a home where the only thing expected of me is money and silence." There was nothing else to say. She hung up again. By the end of the week, the girls stopped texting. Not because they understood. Because they realized it wasn't working. The guilt had dried up. The leverage was gone. What none of them grasped, not Amanda, not Megan, not Lily or Brooke, was that I hadn't disappeared out of anger. I hadn't vanished because I wanted to hurt them. I had simply stopped agreeing to be erased. They thought they could define me by what I wasn't. Not their real father, not blood, not essential. So I gave them a life without me. And they hated it. Because the thing about rejection is that it feels powerful, until the one you rejected starts walking. Then it feels like loss. And once it's gone, it's gone. The plane took off on a Wednesday. No fanfare. No one to see me off. Just me, a black carry-on bag, and the slow, mechanical hum of an airport that didn't care who I used to be. I sat by the window, headphones silent, watching the tarmac shrink into soft, gray veins beneath the clouds. My new life waited somewhere east of here. A quiet apartment near a slow river in a city that didn't speak my language. That was the point. I didn't want to be understood anymore. I wanted distance. Not just from them, from the man I had become in their house. I wasn't running. I was clearing the chalkboard. Some people call it abandonment. That's fine. Let them call it what they need to so their world makes sense. The truth is simpler. I stopped carrying what refused to be carried. They mistook my patience for permanence, my silence for surrender. But I had limits. I always did. I just hid them well. The emails came first. Formal, cautious. Amanda wrote a week after I landed. Michael, I know you're angry. I don't blame you. But the girls are struggling. We're trying to adjust. Brooke had a panic attack after the movers came. Megan's still talking to lawyers. Though there's nothing they can actually do. I just wish we'd handled it differently. Please let me know you're okay. Amanda. I didn't answer. She followed up. I'm not asking for anything. Just clarity. Where did you go? Are you safe? Still, I said nothing. What clarity could I give her? That I was sitting on a cold balcony in a city of strangers, drinking coffee that tasted like dirt and watching boats crawl by like ghosts? That I was sleeping without noise, waking without names in my mouth, realizing I had been a stranger in my own bed for over a decade? Let her wonder. Let them all wonder. A few weeks passed. Then another email, this time from Megan. I don't know what to say. You scared us. You just disappeared. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. That night, it wasn't supposed to be what it became. We were trying to make a point. I know it sounded harsh, but we didn't think you'd. I guess what I'm saying is maybe we went too far. She didn't apologize. She didn't call me Dad. But she wanted something. I could read it between every line. What she wanted wasn't me. It was the version of me who fixed things. The man who made phone calls, who signed checks, who hovered quietly at the edge of their lives like a banker with a casserole dish. That man was gone. They didn't understand that yet, because they'd never seen a man actually leave. Not really. Their father had left, yes, but not in full. He left in episodes, in absences, in birthdays missed and texts unanswered. But he never disappeared. Not like this. Not clean. I had disappeared. They didn't know what to do with that. By the second month, Amanda sent pictures. The girls in their new apartment. Smaller. Carpeted. No ocean views. Megan on the floor. Books stacked around her like sandbags. Lily at the table. Head bent over a laptop. The light making her look younger. More fragile than I remembered. Brooke on the balcony. Knees to her chest. Staring at something off-screen. Amanda added a caption. They're learning. I almost smiled. Learning what? That money doesn't grow on silence? That the man they mocked was the only one who had ever kept the water running? Or maybe that when you declare someone unnecessary, you should be sure they actually need you more than you need them? 3 months in, the tone shifted. The emails got shorter. Amanda asked about taxes, bank statements, mail. I ignored them. Megan wrote once more, this time angrier. You were supposed to be better than this. That line stuck with me. Supposed to be better. Better than what? Better than them? I was. That's why I left. Or maybe she meant better than her real father. The one who vanished years ago but still managed to live in their affections rent-free. The one whose ghost they summoned any time I asked for respect. The one who left room for me, but never truly made room. And I, like a fool, had filled it, hoping, praying, begging that one day they'd stop comparing our shadows. They never did. Amanda wrote again. Her messages were steady now. Resigned. Updates, not invitations. Megan's taking night classes. Lily is looking for work. Brooke's seeing a counselor. I'm staying with my sister while we figure out the bills. That was the first time she mentioned money. The first time the sentence bent under the weight of consequence. No blame. Just a quiet ripple of regret. I didn't reply. 6 months passed. Then a year. I moved again. Smaller place. Simpler life. I didn't need much. Some days I worked, freelance things, contract stuff. Enough to eat. Enough to keep the lights on. Enough to remind myself I had value beyond what I once gave away for free. No one calls me stepdad here. No one calls me anything, really. Most days I am just a name on a mailbox. And strangely, I like it that way. There's freedom in anonymity. In being no one. Because when no one claims you, you owe them nothing. One morning, nearly 2 years after the dinner, I opened my email and saw Amanda's name again. I almost deleted it. But something in me, maybe cruelty, maybe curiosity, opened it instead. Michael, it's Brooke. She asked me to reach out. She's applying to university. Wants to study psychology. She's changed. Grown up. I think she understands things now she didn't before. She asked if I thought you'd write her a letter of recommendation. She knows it's a lot to ask. But she said, and I'm quoting, "He's the only one who ever really knew me." I told her I'd try. Hope you're well. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the laptop. No anger. No satisfaction. Just a flat, unmovable understanding. Too late. They had spent years telling me I was outside their family. Not a real father. Not part of the bloodline. Not worthy of the name or the history. And now that the world had shown them the cost of that declaration, they wanted to renegotiate. But I no longer had anything to give. That was the lesson. For them. For me. For anyone listening. There is a line inside every man. It runs beneath years of patience. Beneath swallowed pride. Beneath nights spent fixing what someone else broke. And when that line breaks, when the dam finally gives, there's no warning. No explosion. Just gone. I don't hate them. That would mean I still cared. I don't forgive them. That would imply they truly asked. I don't think of them often. But when I do, it's with a quiet clarity that feels like stone. I was never their father. I was a service. And when services end, people panic. They don't reflect. They don't repent. They just beg for the service to resume. But I don't. Not anymore. Because love without respect isn't love. It's servitude. And I have no interest in being anyone's servant again. So now I ask you, all of you who've heard this, who've sat through the slow collapse of a man who tried to do everything right, was I wrong? Was I wrong to leave when the house I built became a courtroom? Was I wrong to sell what they claimed was never mine? Was I wrong to vanish when no one noticed I was there until I was gone? Would you have stayed? Would you have kept paying? Would you have kept smiling? Would you have endured it? Or would you have finally asked yourself the question I did, too late to answer out loud? What exactly was I holding on to, and why did I believe I deserved so little in return?